I think we should call today Wind Down Wednesday. Because I feel like winding down.
Right. And for those of you in Chicago, the weather is not that great. It was all nice and sunny. It was like warm.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I think that's what it was. We're in shock because we
right,
went from sunny yesterday. It was still a little rainy, but the
right.
sun was out. These past couple of days, the sun been out. And now today is dreary and there's no, was that stormy weather? Don't know
Yeah,
why there's no sun up in the sky.
right. Because I'm like, I even wore a lighter jacket today
Okay.
downtown, thinking, oh, okay,
I don't know what you was thinking. Somebody didn't watch the weather.
I did not. Everybody kept telling me that the weather was gonna be, but that they didn't tell me till after I was driving.
Oh,
So
I can see how that could be a problem.
exactly right. Well, hello, welcome everybody to Water Cooler Wednesday.
Hello. It's still sunny in here with us.
Right.
We bringing our own sun today.
Excuse me, I have a little cough, a little choking, but
Yeah, but we already made an agreement while we were still off camera. I told her she absolutely cannot die during this episode. So, we're going to have, yeah, we'll be here through the whole 30 minutes.
I'll try my hardest. All right. So my name is Dion Branch with Allure Dream Homes, brokered by EXP. And with me is
Lisa White, Lisa J, the house money mama with Nexa Mortgage, where brokers are better. We're here tonight to talk about some money. Money, 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 money. Money. Not your money, other people's money. That's the money we're actually talking about tonight.
all right. Excuse me, guys. I put a little candy in my mouth. Just try to.
Okay, no, that's good. You probably need to. Yeah, you've been. I don't want you choking to death over there. So everybody say a prayer for Dion so she don't choke to death on the show. So she can keep her word. She promised before we came on. Oh, I'm not gonna die during the show. Okay, now.
But you know how you get them just a little scratchy throat. So, but I'm not talking. Lisa's here to talk today because Lisa's what? All about the money.
Money, 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 money. Yep. So today, as you saw from all the stuff that Dion so graciously put out on social media, that we are talking about the top 5 down payment assistance questions. Answered. That's what we're doing. We're giving you answers today, not just the questions. We answering them for you. So I want to go ahead and start because this is one of those things that, well, she gets the questions too, but I think I get a lot of the money questions because I'm the money lady. So
right,
that's how that happens.
And I send all the money questions to her.
See how that works? We bounce off each other.
Right.
So I would say that this, I almost want to put this out here as like a true false question and just ask people, is this true or false? You have to be a first time buyer in order to get down payment assistance. What do you think, Dion?
False.
Of course, it's a little bit unfair because she has some insider knowledge. But yes, that is false. And I wanted to bring that one up though, because really that is a question that I get a lot. People will, and they ask the question, well, are there programs for first-time home buyers? Well, I always have a hard time answering that question only because I don't want it to sound misleading. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are a few programs where they're asking for you to be a first time buyer. And just so you know, by definition, a first time buyer is someone who's not been on title or purchased a home within the previous 3 years. So, if you are on title currently, or you've been on title within the previous 3 years, then you're not considered a first time buyer. But it's been more than 3 years since you have been on title, then you actually are considered a first time buyer. So you would still qualify for the very few programs that have that as a requirement. But in all honesty, most of the programs that you're looking at, they don't even have that as a requirement. It's not that you have to be a first time buyer, but what they are looking for is they're looking for you to be somebody who's going to live in the
In the
property.
property.
So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
cheated because I think I delved into another question that's going to come up.
Right.
But that
I
is
think
something
what
that's
happens is, over
mhm,
years, right? People always ask us about first time home buyers, their first
mhm,
time home buyer program. And that has just always seemed to be like a trendy
the
kind
thing.
of, yeah, thing,
Yeah.
right? So everybody said first time home buyer. Oh, do you have first time home buyer programs?
Yep.
But there's no such thing. Like there's grants, there's assistant programs,
Yep.
and the first time home buyer is not really a requirement, like Lisa said. Like it's not as if you could have. People are surprised all the time when they're like, "Oh, well, I bought a house 25 years ago. I'm
Mhm.
selling this house because they're downgrading or whatever,
Yeah.
right?" And
Yeah.
then so then you say, well, you qualify for the grant program. Well, I'm not a first time home buyer though.
Right. You're like, well, doesn't matter. You don't have to be one. You just need to live in the house that you're going to buy. Usually, for most of the programs, that's how it works. Like 9.99 out of 10. That's how it's going to work. So that is good to keep in mind. There are some programs like specific to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, like the Fannie Mae Home Ready program, the Home Possible program by Freddie Mac. Those are both programs that are agency specific, which just basically means that they're from the investor itself, like kind of the behind the scenes. You know how
Hmm.
you the Wizard of Oz, he was behind the curtain doing everything.
Right.
So the same ones that are behind the curtain doing everything to make your loan come together, they actually have these programs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. That's like the secondary market, but they have a couple of programs where they will contribute money towards you being able to close. And you don't have to be a first time buyer in order to qualify. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You do not have to be a first time buyer. Now, another question when people really want to get to the heart of the money itself is that they'll ask, how much can I get? Can you give me 50 G's? So I want to hear somebody say 50 G's, 50 G's to go to my house. You got it? You might not get that amount. But most of the times the programs go by way of percentages, actually. So a lot of times they are, thought of as down payment assistance. So pretty much every loan has to have a down payment with a few exceptions. We do have a few exceptions, like USDA and VA. They don't have to have down payments, some of those. But pretty much every other loan is going to need to have down payment. So usually they want the down payment assistance program to cover whatever that down payment is going to be. So 3.5% is normally one of the percentages that will cover for your down payment program. I've seen some where they do 5% as your down payment assistance. And then I've seen some where they are like they have a cap at a certain number. Like for
Hmm.
example, what's her name? Fabi.
Right.
He was just on with us last week. The ID programs, they actually have caps. So they will cover up to $10,000 or up to $7,500.
Hmm.
There's a Cook County program that will cover up to $20,000. So depending on what the program is, that's one of the things that's going to determine how much you'll actually be able to get. Another thing to keep in mind, which I believe we talked about this 2 weeks ago, is that you can do what they call layering sometimes. So there may be opportunities to get more than one down payment assistance program incorporated into your loan. So you might be able to, qualify for one that has a 3.5%, but then you may also be able to qualify for, like, say, for example, the Home Possible program. And,
Mm-hmm.
they'll do like up to $2,500. Well, not up to, they do a flat amount. So it's 2,500 or I think 15, one of the two. But anyway, they will do that in conjunction with another program that you have. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that as far as how much you can get, sometimes you can play around with that a little bit, and you don't have to be capped at the limits of just one program. You
Yeah.
can combine programs together so you can increase the amount that you'll be able to qualify for when you close.
Hmm.
So
So it's always nice when you can layer multiple programs
mhm.
together so that you can get more money towards your closing costs. So Lisa and I've worked with different clients where we've been able to kind of layer their down payment or their assistance, because even you might qualify for a program, a down payment assistance program. But then it's also the option where me as a realtor can ask for the seller to give you credits as well. So we've
Mhm.
talked about that in the past too,
Yep,
right?
definitely.
So there's always multiple ways for, when you're looking for, you to have the option of bringing less to the table.
Yep, absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Just got to know how to work it all out.
Right.
So we talked about whether or not you have to be a first time home buyer, how much you might be able to get. Now, another thing that people a lot of times will ask about is, with the down payment being an assistance program, is it something that's a grant where they just give you the money, or is
Hmm.
it something that's more like a loan where you have to pay the money back? So that's another question that you can't really just answer with a yes or no, because a couple of reasons. One, um, it does depend on the program.
Right.
So some of the programs will actually be grants. Very few of them, I'm going to be honest with you, very few of them. I know I have two lenders that will do an actual grant. So that means that they do not put a second lien on your house. You receive, if you qualify, you receive the money at closing. They do it as a credit onto your closing disclosure, and then that's it. You don't hear anything else from them. You don't get stuff in the mail. That's
Right.
it. Your business with them is done. You qualified for the program. You did your home buyer education or whatever it was that they required from you, and now you guys are done. You got the grant, and you can go on your merry way. Now, there are probably going to be a couple of restrictions on that one, whereas, like, say, for example, you won't be allowed to refinance, for example, because those a lot of times come with a higher interest rate. But
Hmm.
you won't be allowed to refinance usually for about 6 months. You're going to
Oh,
definitely have to wait at least 6 months before you refinance. So you want to keep that in mind for that. Now, there are other programs that, like the Chinoa program, and some of the lender specific programs,
hmm.
FHA, I forget, FHA Super something, I forget what they call it, but it's a cool little FHA program where they'll do 5%. And so 3.5% for that percent is really going to go towards your down payment itself. And then the other 1.5% you can use to go towards your closing costs to kind of bring those down as well.
Hmm.
So a program like that, though, would be something where it's what they call a forgivable loan. So
Okay.
they do put a second lien on your house for this kind of program. So you won't have just one mortgage lien. You'll have two separate mortgage liens. The first, the primary, the first
Hmm.
lien, which would be what you actually bought the house for, and then the loan anyway. And then the second lien will be the amount of the grant or the amount of the down payment assistance, excuse me, that was provided for you. So with that second lien, what happens is they usually do something called a 0% interest forgivable loan. And so there's a prorated amount, like, for example, maybe you have to stay in the house for 10 years. So 10 years, that's 120 months. So every month they're going to forgive a prorated portion of the amount of the grant that they provided at closing, the down payment assistance that they provided at closing.
Okay.
So for example, if you were to get into a program like that and say you had only been in the program for 5 years and say you got $10,000 as your down payment assistance at closing through this program, well, that means 5 years in, only 5,000 of that has been forgiven, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if 5 years in you decided to refinance or you decided to sell or whatever, that additional 5,000 that has not yet been forgiven, that's going to be tacked on to your principal in order for you to be able to either refinance or to sell your home.
Okay.
So
And
like,
that's
for example, just numbers on that, if you owed, if your principal at 5 years in was, I don't know, let's say $245,000, now you're going to have to add that other five on, so it just became 250,000 that you
mhm,
need in order to pay the loan off.
right. And a lot of times, as a realtor working with people that are selling their home, this
Hmm.
is something that a lot of people forget when they're
Yeah.
deciding that they want to sell. Like they're like, oh, I forgot that I had a loan. And so we
Yeah.
really have to make sure that, we remind them, just like, hey, did you, when you purchased, did you get any money? And,
Yeah.
people kind of like, oh, well, they gave me about 10,000, but that's no big deal. Yeah, it
Oh,
is,
well, yeah, it is. Right. Depending
right.
on what kind of program you were in, it can be a big deal.
Right. So,
A
so it's,
good point.
when you're purchasing, I would say it's best that you do inquire as much information as you can about the program. It's a lot going on all at the same time. We
Yeah.
understand that. But when it settles, when the things settle, you probably should go back over all the documents that you signed, because typically at a closing it, you all get all the information,
Yeah.
or so exactly, and maybe even write a note to yourself like, hey, so then 5 years from now you like, oh, I want to sell my house, we have to relocate, it's emergency, or we've we've got three more kids all of a sudden.
Yeah.
We need to
Triplets.
yes, exactly, right. So you'll have to do something in order to sell and increase,
Yeah.
to upgrade, right? So I would say, at closing, write a note to yourself, just like, hey, I took, a grant was given to me,
Mhm.
and what are the guidelines for that?
Right. And
Hmm.
if you're in a position right now where you're about to call Dion because you're thinking about selling, listing your home, this would be a good time to go back and review your paperwork
Yeah.
because maybe you did forget. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. Like you said, a mortgage transaction is a huge transaction. So many moving parts. Even for you guys, for me on the back end, like all the stuff that
Hmm.
we do to
Right.
originate the loan, probably for every one thing that you guys do, we're probably doing five to maybe 10
Right.
other things on the. So
Mhm.
it's just a lot of moving parts, a lot
Right.
of things happening. So it's easy to forget. Oh, that's right, I did.
Right. Right. You're like,
I did get
oh.
some extra money. I forgot all about that. It's easy. It's actually
Mhm.
very easy to forget something like that. You would think, though, how could you forget that? Easy.
Easy.
You can
Yeah.
forget it real easy.
Yeah.
so
Because
so yeah,
you're excited about being at the end, because, and we don't want to scare you, right? We hold your hand throughout the whole process, so we make sure that you understand everything that you're going that
right.
we that you're doing, but you can't catch everything.
That's
So
true. And
right.
and even after you close, because closing is the end of the transaction, but really closing is the beginning for the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they close, now they're gonna move.
Yeah.
They're going to be maybe financing things for inside the house. Maybe they're not going to start look for people to come and paint or change
Thank you.
locks, or
Right. Mhm.
can you remodel this room, whatever. All these different, a lot of things start to happen when
Yeah.
you become a homeowner. So even though the DPA seems like down payment assistance seems like a big deal while you're going through it, but in the grand scheme of things, once all of that is behind you, it's very easy to forget.
Yeah.
So many other things are going to take place. So many other things, life changes, just all kind of stuff is going to be happening. Life is going to keep going, so with that not being something that, is on your mind every day, it's very easy to forget. So that's excellent advice. Go back and look at your stuff right now. Especially if you even think within the next 12 months that you may want to list your house, I would say go back right now and just look over your paperwork and see, if there's something that you need to wear, or call us and ask us to help you go over it. So we covered, like, what is that, 3 things?
Yes.
Oh, credit score. That's another thing that people will ask about a lot. Credit score. Like, some people make the assumption that there's no requirements to get the money, but that's not accurate. Anything, let me just say this, my mom always told me, don't nobody give you nothing. And my mama was right.
Right.
And so
We
was
don't
my
get anything
grandma.
for free.
No.
No.
Anything you get, you're gonna have to give up something for it. But yeah, so as far as being able to qualify, you will have to do something to qualify. So that part of that qualification is just like you qualify for a mortgage loan, you have to qualify for the down payment assistance. So there is going to be a minimum credit score. Usually that credit score is about 620. There are some programs where the score will go lower than that, but I am going to caution you. The best thing to do with your financial transaction, the largest financial transaction of your life, mind you, is to have a better credit score. Yeah. So my personal recommendation would be that you're at least a 640. 660 is better, but that you're at least a 640, because usually, even in the grand scheme of the down payment assistance itself, there's kind of like tiers, if you will, and there's ability to get better terms. Like, you might be able to buy down the rate, but the rate costs a certain amount depending on what your credit profile looks like.
Yeah.
So having a better credit score is still always going to be best, even if the minimum is like a 580 or 600 or something like that. We don't want to be. We're not bottom of the barrel type people anyway. I mean, I want to put Lady Hayward the horses can get to it. Just think about this: you're becoming a homeowner. You're not a bottom of the barrel type person anyway. You don't want to stay where you are. You want to do better. So because you want to do better, that's the first place you should start.
Yeah.
So 620 is probably going to be the minimum, but let's see if you can bump yourself up to a 640 or a 660, and then just be able to negotiate a little bit more, be a little bit better qualified, and it'll make my job easier too.
Right. The thing is, a lot of people say that they could get you a home with a 580 credit score. But what comes with the lowest credit score is higher interest, more money that you have to pay, even though you're getting
more restrictions.
Right, more restrictions, right. So even though you're getting some additional money, then you still probably have to come out of your pocket with even more money. Rather, take some time, and prepare for your purchase, right? So we all know that there's a few tips that you need to do in order to improve your credit score. One is, don't max your credit cards out. Right? You only can use like 1/3 of your credit. If your credit is $300, your credit limit is $300, then the most you really only supposed to use is $100, not the full 300, because then as you start to go up, then they start.
That's called maxing your credit.
Right, they start to rate you lower, and then that decreases your credit score. The other thing is, don't pay off your whole credit card all at one time, because that looks like your account has been closed. And so then that'll also rate negatively on your credit score. So, because a lot of people are like, but I just paid it off, and I thought my score was going to go up, but it actually went down.
Mm.
Mhm. So look, I would say consult with the credit repair specialist, and
Yeah,
they can kind of help you with some of those things. You have time. This is a good time for you to start. The market is actually just about to get ready to start, so you have some opportunity, some time to get your
hmm,
score up, to that 640 that you really kind of need to be
absolutely. And a lot of times it's not as difficult as you think. But like my girlfriend always tell me, you don't know what you don't know.
at.
So you
Hmm.
really have to call and talk to somebody and find out, because then they can give you more accurate information based upon your particular credit profile and things like that. They can say, oh, if you just do this, 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 and this, then we can get you to X amount of points in this amount of time. The person that we work with, usually Maurice, takes about what, 30 to maybe 60 days. I
Yeah,
think the average time I see people come back when they actually work on their credit and come back is probably about 35 days.
yeah, yeah.
So it might not be as bad as you think. So I got one more that I did want to cover. And I kind of alluded to it already a little bit earlier, so it won't take that long. But do I have to stay in the house for a certain amount of time? Yes, you do.
Yep.
And that's part of that, what my mama said, and nothing coming for free. This is
Yeah.
part of what you pay, for being able to have access to this money and receive it as part of your transaction. So, like how we mentioned earlier, that the way the loan works is it's going to be forgivable over a certain amount of time. So you kind of mess with that if you leave sooner than the amount of time that it takes for the down payment assistance to be forgiven. So usually the best thing to do is stay in the house for the full amount of time, unless you absolutely, life changes happen, things like
Right.
that. If you have to move, or if it just makes the most sense to refinance, maybe market has drastically changed and maybe now you can get a much lower rate. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe market has changed and your value has gone up enough where now you can tap into some of that equity that's in your house. And that makes sense. That's a benefit to you. You might need to
Right.
pay off debt. You might have a child in college. You might have, I don't know, sometimes I've seen people take out for medical stuff, a major medical event has
Mm-hmm.
occurred. Again, this life happens. We talk real with you all on this show.
Yeah.
Stuff happens in life. And sometimes that is a vehicle. That's why you became a homeowner, so you could have different options, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you have equity in your home and you can tap into that equity, then of course, you want to talk to somebody like myself to help you to make the decision to be able to do that, give you the information that you need. But other than those things, where you really would need to refinance, you're expected to stay in the home, for the period of time that was allotted for the particular down payment assistance program that you're part of. There are some that like I think let me think. HUD Good Neighbor program, I think it's 3 years. I think you have to stay in the house for 3 years. They have an expectation you're staying for that amount of time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then just some of the other programs in different states, they'll have different, God bless you, they'll have different program requirements as well for how long you stay in the home. On the average, it's usually between 3 and 5 years. There are
Yeah.
some programs that are 10, but on the average, what I usually see is between 3 and 5 years.
Yeah.
Usually within that amount of time, you're pretty safe.
Right. And so, and that's why we say make sure you kind of get an understanding from your lender. I'm
How
sure
it
Lisa,
works.
right? Lisa's gonna explain everything to you before you're while you're going through the process and determining if you want to take these different programs and stuff. Some
Mhm.
some may require you to have like a higher interest rate too sometimes.
Yep.
So there's a lot of details to the programs, and so definitely find out more about them so you'll know, okay, I need to stay in my house 3 years, I need to stay in my house 5 years, I need to stay in my house 10 years, right? How long do I have to actually stay in this house in order to, and because the idea is to prevent investors, right, from actually trying to use any of these programs because people
Yeah.
want to invest and flip houses and then go in and buy something else.
Yeah. And then also just, as we kind of wrapping up, there are a few other things that are important to remember too. Some of them are going to be income based. Like for example, the Fannie Freddie products that I made reference to earlier would be income based. So you can't be more than I believe it's 80% of the area median income. So some of them work that way. Some of them, a lot, will require for you to do a home buyer education. So that's
Mhm.
usually usually it's about 8 hours, I think. Usually it's either you either get like a 4 hour or an 8 hour course, but there's going to be a requirement for most of these programs for home buyer education. So that's another thing to keep in mind. We did already mention that there's income and credit requirements. Oh, and here's another thing that I think is good to know too. A lot of times down payment assistance programs will restrict your debt to income ratio.
Mm.
So that's one of those things that people don't often talk about, but I think it's important because when your debt to income ratio is restricted, is lessened, that actually lessens how much house you can buy. So for example, if you would have qualified to buy a $300,000 house with just, purchasing it on your own with your own down payment money and stuff like that, now that you're in this program, it's restricting your debt to income ratio. Maybe now you can only buy a $250,000 house.
No.
So that's just a general
Yeah.
example. It's not unrealistic though, you
Yeah.
know, but depending on your debt and your income, that's not an unrealistic example. But
Yeah.
it's just a general example to give you an idea of the fact that debt to income is directly correlated to how much house you can buy.
Yeah. And so we say all this to say that the down payment system, there's a lot. There's there's 5 questions that you ask, but there's a lot behind every question. So nothing is just a direct answer.
Yeah,
And we have to discuss the programs with you and determine which one works best for you. Right. So,
absolutely.
hmm and Lisa, she's the lady. She's the one with the money.
I'm gonna give me a dollar sign to hold up.
Right. And so then because of that, she
Oh,
can
wait. Here we go.
right. So she can get you to the closer table and also get you some money. So she's the house. Was it
House
house
money
money
mama.
mama? She's the house money mama. I don't know how I forgot that. Right. But so
All right.
no.
Well, we're
But
at the end of another one.
yes, yes, yes. And so we're so excited. We're so grateful for you guys to watch us every week and listen to all the different programs and that we have available for you. So if you're ever interested in learning more about how you can purchase a home. Maybe you're not ready to purchase like right this second, but you're thinking about purchasing. You really should still give us a call. Let
This
us
the
know,
time.
right? Because what happens is we're also about making a plan for you, right? Determining, okay, next year I want to be able to buy a house. And how do I need to do? How can I do that? My credit
Right.
score is a 580 and I don't have any money. So we're going
Right.
to set you up with a credit repair specialist to get you where you need to be for your credit score. So now you're eligible for your with your credit score is eligible. Then we're going to look at your debt ratio, determining how much debt you have. Oh, you just bought that car. Right, right. But there's different things that we can do, to help you to get you to that plan, get you to the final destination. And so let us help you do that by contacting us in advance so that we can be there for you. All right. All
Absolutely.
right. Let's show them some phone numbers before we really duck and dodge out of here, right?
I think
So
that's a great idea.
yeah. So this is my number, Dion Branch, Allure Dream Homes, broker by EXP. And so you can call me at any time with any questions about real estate. I can help you and answer your questions. But if you're going to ask me anything about money, I'm gonna give you Lisa's number and ask you to give her a call or connect you two together so that you all can start your
Our
journey.
plan, our
Right, your
financial
plan.
plan. Yeah.
Mhm.
Home
And
buying plan.
right. So we're definitely here for you and want to help you throughout this process. And we're so excited that you have come to listen to us every week at Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Bye.